Hey everyone, it's me again, Brittany, and I'm here today to film for you guys my quarterly wrap-up. So all of the books that I read in January, February, and March of this year. I have 13. Well, I read 13 books in those months. I don't necessarily have 13 books to talk about because I reread some a few times. I am excited though because 13 is my favorite number, so it works out. I thought that there was going to be a lot less for this wrap-up. To be quite honest, I thought I was in more of a slump than I guess I was. I'm really excited because, guys, spoiler alert for April, but I'm in a reading mood, a physical reading mood. I don't want to jinx it. I'm gonna knock on wood. But like, I'm so excited. You guys know that this reading slump has been torture for me. I love reading, and to not have found time in like almost 2 years to physically read has just been, it's been a time. So I'm glad that I'm finally kind of getting back in the mood. So hopefully next wrap up is actually gonna be fun and huge. I don't know. It's gonna be fun either way. Before we dive on in, I do just want to give a big thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. I've worked with Book of the Month so many times. You guys definitely know them at this point, and I really love and appreciate them for always partnering with me. It makes my little reader heart happy that I get to have a sponsor that is so book related and something that I can recommend to you guys that is just such a fun part of my month every single month. So, to give you a little bit of a rundown, Book of the Month is an online book subscription service that was literally made for readers. Their mission statement is to promote new and emerging authors through their book picks every single month, and they do this by going through hundreds of book picks. Their team literally goes through hundreds of book picks every single month to pick 5 that they think their subscribers are going to get the most out of. And then those 5 book picks are always going to be new or even early release adult fiction hardcover books. You're gonna get it all for the low price of $14.99 per month, which is a really good deal. I mean, we're all readers here, so you guys know how much hardcovers, adult fiction books, I said that mixed up, but you know how much those cost normally, so this is an amazing deal. And to top it off, they are actually a risk-free policy, meaning that any month, if you don't like the books or you don't want to pick any of them and have your credit move on to the next month, you are more than welcome to do it. They have a skip policy and there is no fee associated with it. And even though they already have the best price for adult fiction new release hardcovers, if you use the code SPRINGFUN, you can actually get your first subscription, your first book, for $9.99. So yeah, thank you again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Again, I love their service. I really have a great time with them, and I hope that you guys do too. But let's go over the book picks for this month really quick. So just in the box, we have Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge, and this is actually a historical fiction novel that has to do with liberty and how she is trying to shape and create a future for herself in 1800s New York City. Then we have The Hunting Wives by May Cobb, and this is an early release thriller novel that has to do with Southern belles and martinis and murder. I'm gonna read you the inside. It says the Hunting Wives share more than target practice, martinis, and bad behavior in this novel of obsession, seduction, and murder. So, you know, that's covering a lot of bases. Then we have Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation, and this is a romance novel about 2 best friends and their last chance to truly fall in love with each other, because apparently they've been in love with each other this whole time, but neither of them realize it. Then we have an early release and debut mystery novel by Mia P. Manansala, and it's called Arsenic and Adobo, and it has to do with a cook or a chef and how her ex-boyfriend mysteriously gets poisoned in her restaurant and how she swears up and down she didn't do it, but everyone thinks she did it. I love adobo. My boyfriend's mom makes the most amazing adobo. Whenever she makes it, I'm always trying to convince my boyfriend to bring me like a million portions because I love it so much, but that's another story. Then we have What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins, and this is a debut, like, contemporary fiction novel that deals with grief and loss and how a town kind of comes to terms with it after 2 boys die. Ooh, I love how colorful the spines are. These are the 5 book picks for April. Again, if you want to use the code SPRINGFUN, then you get one of these for $9.99 this month. And thank you again to Book of the Month for sponsoring the video. I appreciate it. Anyways, let's get into the books that I read. We're gonna go in chronological order because that makes the most sense to me. So obviously we're starting in January, and the first book that I read this year was From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This book took me by storm. I really didn't expect to fall in love with it as much as I did. I gave it 5 stars. It is a romance, a fantasy romance series, and we're following Poppy, who is the maiden for this society, and in this society being the maiden is a great honor, but it's also very restricting. She can't show her face, she has guards around her at all times, and she really can't live her own life. She can't have her own friends, she can't do anything outside of like the Empire's say so. And she's kind of starting to wonder if being the maiden, which is supposed to save her country, is really what she wants to do, especially when she gets a new guard and he's really hot, and she kind of just wants to risk it all for him, honestly. Let's be honest. It's great. I really feel like this series is great for someone if you liked the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J Maas. I feel like Jennifer L. Armentrout really has a very similar style to Sarah J Maas in these books, and that like the steaminess is a level up from Sarah J Maas. Maybe not like completely full-blown romance novel, but it's like a notch above it, and it gets pretty steamy. I enjoyed it a lot, obviously. I gave it 5 stars. But the next book that I read 3 times, yeah, you heard correctly, I read it 3 times, and I gave it 5 stars, is Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, also by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book in that series. We're kind of continuing off from where the last one went. You know, realistically in my mind, I think that Kingdom of Flesh and Fire has like a more interesting plot, but I don't know, something about this second book really was something I enjoyed. I liked the mystery, I liked the romance, I loved the romance. It was very predictable in my opinion. I don't think that anything came as a shock. Even the way it ended, it wasn't very big of a twist in my opinion, but I still liked it. It was definitely just a fun, addictive read, which you need sometimes. Yeah, January was the month of surprises because after that I read Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin, and I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. If you guys remember, I read Serpent and Dove a couple of years ago now. That's crazy. Anyways, it was in 2019 and I wanted to really love it. It just didn't hit the mark for me. It had a lot of aspects of fantasy books that I tend to love, but it just fell flat. I didn't feel like the romance was all that believable. I didn't think it was all that steamy, and I just didn't understand all the hype around it. But I went into Blood and Honey with much lower expectations. Because to be fair, I think the reason Serpent and Dove did not suit my taste was because I had such high expectations. So Blood and Honey was a lot better for me. There was still a lot of miscommunication between our 2, you know, main characters that are supposed to be in love, and that was a bit frustrating at times, but I do feel like the plot in this one was much more solid. I felt like we got to know the world a lot better, when in the first one we were just kind of handed a world and we were like, here, do with it as you will, because it's kind of French and it's fantasy-esque and just, I don't know, figure it out. And this one was more solid, but I will say the ending was shocking. A little hard to believe. It felt kind of like a big boss level fight in a video game. It was that outlandish, and it was a little bit predictable. It fell flat in that aspect, but I think that the rest of the story was just so entertaining for me, and I was so pleasantly surprised that it ended up being a 4 stars. So who knows? Who knows what the last one's gonna do for me, you know? And the last book that I read in January, so technically book 6, but also like the 4th one that I'm telling you guys about, you know what that means, is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. And this is another book that really just pleasantly surprised me. I guess January was a really good reading month for me, which is so strange because it flew by. I can barely remember January, but apparently I read a lot of good books. And The Hating Game is a romance novel between, I didn't really tell you what Serpent and Dove is about, did I? This is that moment where I'm gonna say that disclaimer where I link everything down in my description box below because I'm atrocious at giving you summaries normally, and I just kind of tell you how I feel instead. So if you want any more in-depth information on any of the books that I talk about, they're in my description, so you can check them out. They are affiliate links, so if you shop through them, I get a commission, but don't feel any pressure. This is literally information's sake. Anyways, The Hating Game is a romance novel, and it has to do with 2 coworkers who absolutely despise each other. Their companies basically merge and they never really liked each other to begin with, and years later they still have an office feud, but obviously there's just a fine line between love and hate, right? I will say, as far as like the hate to love trope in this, I don't think it was done very well. I thought it was very obvious the entire time that they didn't hate each other and it was secretly just that they were very attracted to each other. And I will say that it moved really fast in the beginning. It was kind of startling. Like, if you thought this dude hated you, then what the heck is going on right now? Anyways, but I did really enjoy it. I thought the relationship was really nice. I don't know, I like how it came together in the end. I wanted more, but it was still 4 stars. Now for a book that definitely did not hit the mark for me at all, and that's gonna be Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lauren. This, to be fair, I was going to do a TBR video. I'm really bad at specialized TBR videos. I want you guys to know that, because I normally get about 4 of the 5 books of the way through, and then I forget I'm doing it, and then the footage just sits in my computer for months, and then it's too late at that point. But anyways, I was doing this for a TBR video, and specifically it was gonna be like problematic / romances with bad names. So I shouldn't have expected too much from it, and it is one of Christina Lauren's, the author duo's, first stories they ever came out with, and you can tell because it felt like a sexual fantasy just being put on a page. There was basically no plot. The way that these 2 characters that are supposed to also hate to love each other get together in the very beginning, I'm all here for some steamy, smutty moments. I'm here for it. But that was extreme. It was a few pages in and it went 0 to 100 in that one page. I rewinded my audiobook trying to figure out if I'd missed something. And there was no plot, and I hated their relationship. I thought they weren't good for each other. It didn't make any sense. I will say the smut was smutty, but I don't know, I guess I need more. So yeah, that was a 2-star. That was a 2-star. But that one was still better than what I read right after, which was Beautiful Bitch by Christina Lauren, the sequel to Beautiful Bastard. A novella, which I didn't realize in the moment that I'd been reading it, but I gave it 1 star. I really, really didn't like it. I thought that the plot was pointless. It should have been longer. If you were gonna make something out of it, why did you make it this length kind of situation? And it just did nothing for me at all, in the slightest. It's just the 2 main characters, their love is just so problematic, and I think it's never really addressed. It's very like 50 Shades of Grey-esque, which is fair because I think it was done in that era, but I just didn't like it. Next we have If I Never Met You by Vadi McFarlane. I gave this book 3 stars? I gave this book 3 stars. I'm gonna read you what I wrote because I feel like it says it all. I mean, so cute, but no sex? Not even fade to black? Just a full-on skip? Like, kiss? Nothing, then her kind of telling her friends 2 days later? Ruined it, TBH. Yeah, Brittany from February had it all right, because I will say I liked the relationship. I thought it was being built up in such a lovely way. We're basically following, again, another coworker duo who don't hate each other. They just kind of end up using each other for each other's images. She just got left by her fiance of 10 years for another woman because he didn't want kids, but now he's having a baby with that other woman a month in. He is looked down upon by everyone in the company because they think he's just like a playboy and he's just gotten it too easy, and he needs some of her good image and she needs to get back at her fiance, her ex-fiance, who also works in the same building. And I really liked how their relationship built up. I felt like it was supernatural. It felt very realistic, but the end, in general, it was so frustrating. There was a lot of miscommunication happening within the office that just felt so unrealistic and so annoying to watch, and it didn't feel like it was moving the story forward in any way, and it didn't have a concrete solution either. And I feel like our main girl character, sorry I'm not referring to these people by names, I tend to forget after a month. Lori. So Lori, she is just so willing to believe that Lori is just so willing to believe that Jamie could not possibly love her and that he's just using her the entire time too, that she just doesn't give him the benefit of the doubt, which I felt was really unfair for his character. And I also really did not like that this was not even fade to black. This wasn't even fade to black, guys. They kissed for a little bit, they made out, they had a moment, and then 2 days later, we're talking to her friends. That's literally it. And I guess I just walked into this expecting at least a touch of smut. So when I got to that part, it fell really flat for me. But the rest was really cute. So if you're not a big fan of smut, you probably will like this because, I mean, you will likely like it more than I did, because I have realized that even though I don't want everything to be smut, like Beautiful Bastard, I do want a little bit, unlike If I Never Met You. And actually the next book that I have to talk about, which is book number 10 and the last book that I read in February, which is Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. I gave this book 2 stars. This was another one that was going to be in that video that I was telling you about that is probably scrapped at this point. I didn't like it. It's basically following a guy who had his career taken away from him because of an injury. He was a pro baseball player and now he has to go back to his small town, and then it's him kind of reconnecting with his best friend's little sister. She's always had like a crush on him, like one of those idolization kind of crushes, and there is a bit of an age gap, but she is of age. There was a lot of sexual tension in this one, I will say. And there was an appropriate amount of smut, I guess, towards the end. It was very condensed, but it was good. But I just really felt like the relationship itself was so toxic and weird. And I don't know, it's hard to kind of separate what was a kink, I guess, and what was toxic. And I feel like that should be sometimes a little bit more obvious because reasons, I guess, I don't know. Like, she definitely had her kinks and so did he, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to kink shame, but I just felt like it was a little weird at times, and I felt like I was really frustrated also with the way that all of the men treated the women in this book. For example, they never really listened to this youngest sister because she is the youngest sister. She's supposed to like not know what's going on and she's too ditzy and whatever. But she has an older sister that's in the business with the family. The family has like a renovation business, a home renovation business, and she wants to like take her career the next step. She wants to really, instead of just interior designing the places and like staging them, she wants to be a part of the fixing up. Her whole family just like steamrolls her. They totally don't care, and her older brother, who has control of the business, just keeps telling her like, oh yeah, sure, and then the moment the opportunity will come, he takes it away from her. And I felt like it was really gross to look at because it was never kind of challenged. Like, yeah, our main dude kind of challenged it, but I feel like when it came to the family, no one mentioned anything. They were just like, oh yeah, that's family, and it's like, your family should have faith in you. I don't know, it really bugged me, and like the relationship already wasn't my favorite thing, so it was a 2-star. Now for the books that I read in March. First up we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I wanted some like good wholesome romance after reading so many romance books that I felt indifferent towards, and I gave this a 4-star. I want to say it was a 4.5, but I wrote down 3.5, and I don't think that makes sense. I did have a couple of issues with this, but none that would have made it a 3.5, so I'm leaning towards 4.5. Which is why I said 4. I don't know. But Get a Life, Chloe Brown has to do with Chloe and how she's trying to live on her own and prove that she is capable of surviving without her family, because she does have a chronological illness. That she has had to be taken care of by her family because of it, and she wants to prove that she doesn't really need that anymore. So she goes to live on her own, and then she kind of asks the bad boy superintendent, what are they called? Basically, he takes care of the apartment, and she asks him to help her get a life. She has like this list of things that she wants to do so that she can prove that her illness isn't holding her back in any way. I think that the representation in this was phenomenal. The chronicle, why have I been saying that? Oh my gosh, how do you say it? Chronic. I am so sorry. The chronic illness that she has was very well represented. I think that her pain and the things that she goes through every day were very well understood, and even by our main dude character, Red, it was very understanding, and I really liked the way that he approached the whole subject, because he never really was trying to hold her back, but he did kind of tell her, if you need me, I am here in case you are having a hard time. And I really enjoyed that. I loved the body positive representation because it's never flat out stated, I don't think, that she's not like a super skinny person that you always see in romances. He's very much in love with the fact that she has curves, and he's like, she's soft and wonderful. I don't know, I thought it was well done. I thought it was respectfully done, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I feel like there's a fine line between like, hey, this is body positive and this is sexualizing something, and I think that Talia Hibbert wrote it pretty well. I am not myself plus size, so I'm definitely not the be-all end-all for that kind of representation and understanding it. So I would definitely look into other reviewers if you want a more well-rounded review. as far as those things go. But I will say, as far as like the chronic illness, I myself suffer from a few things that are chronic and that give me a lot of exhaustion. And even though mine is definitely not on the level of Chloe Brown's, I definitely still felt seen, and it was nice. It was very pleasant. And I really did like the relationship. I think there was just, oh, I remember, they both have trauma from previous relationships. And there is a moment in the end where it kind of really comes to a head, where both of them are kind of dealing with their actual PTSD style symptoms of their traumas that they've had in relationships, and they do it in a very toxic manner, and they come out of it and they forgive each other. And I don't think that's an issue necessarily, but I feel like some of the things that were said and some of the things that were done should have been worked through without each other, if that makes any sense. I totally feel like the way that this ended was still rightly done, but I think that there needed to be a moment where it was at least acknowledged that they should have time apart, where they needed months without each other, where they can work on their own issues without relying on each other, and to truly be like the best kind of person that they could be for the relationship, because it was really toxic. It was a very, very intense scene, and I think that it was kind of brushed over in the end because it's true love, but I think that it's kind of not the best message to give people, because if someone reads this and they're in a relationship that had that kind of fight, I just don't think you should go immediately back to being together. And I understand past traumas, that is not the issue here. I think the issue was just saying like, now they can work on it with each other, and it's like, that is definitely not always the case. Actually, it is 99% of the time probably not the case. So I don't know. I felt like that wasn't the best message. I feel like it should have been more of an independent situation versus codependent, but that could just be me. That's nitpicking, honestly, because the rest was amazing. Book number 12, which is Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. Why did I say it like that? KJ Sutton. I was really excited to read this. I'm not gonna lie. This is a romance set in like the elf world. Elfheim? The Unseelie Court. That's the words I was looking for. That's the words. Not Elfheim. This isn't Cruel Prince. They were going down to the Unseelie Court, and you have to take it for face value. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't expect that much out of this. I expected this to be very problematic, and it was. I think that the relationship was extremely toxic. It was very manipulative, very heavy on the lies. I mean, we still don't really know where everyone lies at the end of this, and it was kind of a sad situation for our heroine to be in, but that's kind of what I expected. I'm not gonna lie. You hear about a fairy taking a human bride down to the Unseelie Court, and you don't really expect it to be very romantic or unproblematic. But I will say that the one thing this book severely suffered from, which I've heard a few times and I didn't realize until I was getting to those parts, this was almost an exact copy of the trials that Feyre has to go through in A Court of Thorns and Roses. I will say down to a T. It was uncanny. I'm not sure which one came out first. I want to say that A Court of Thorns and Roses did, but like, is there something else maybe that I am missing? It's possible, because I know that Sarah J Maas does pull a lot of things from poetry or mythology, and maybe there is a tale that has to do with these kinds of trials being done with the Fae, but it was uncanny. It was a little weird. It felt like a mix between A Court of Thorns and Roses and The Mortal Instruments. I did like Fortuna, who was our main character. I hated her brother, in all honesty, and I actually loved her king. I don't think he's a good person, in all honesty, but I feel like he has the right intentions. But that could just be me. Anyways. And the last book that I read in the first quarter of the year is gonna be Lore by Alexandra Bracken. And I'm so happy I read this. I'm just, guys. I was really excited about this because it was giving me all of the like Greek mythology vibes. Just to kind of give you a brief idea, every 7 years, I believe it is, the gods come down to New York City as mortal. And then anyone that kills that god will then be able to have that god's power. And we are way into the trials at this point, and there are not that many original gods left, but we do have Athena, who is still the original version of Athena, and she goes to find Lore. Not everyone in New York just knows that the gods are coming down. No, this is still a very normal New York City, and there are families that were around when this all started and they were given the knowledge, and they have kind of like built up their families, and they prepare for it every 7 years and they try to make a god out of one of their people. Athena goes to Lore because Lore really has no one left, and she is asking her for help because she thinks that there's a way to end this. That's kind of something that Lore would want. So we go from there. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm going to give you the reason right now. I did find it mildly predictable as far as like, there was a subplot happening of what had happened to one of her best friends in the previous trial, basically. I kind of guessed at what had happened there. I wasn't disappointed though. What I was disappointed at was the end. I can understand it. I totally can. I think that I generally have an issue with this kind of trope. I'm not gonna say which one it is, but I will say that there are a couple of other books that have had this similar situation, and I've hated it every single time. This one at least didn't completely ruin the book for me, but it felt cheesy. It felt kind of like, well then why did we do all this if this is how you're gonna end it? It felt unnecessary, and it felt like the entire story that we had read had basically been for nothing, even though it did play a major role. I just felt like it was pointless. I just don't like this sort of story ending. I'm not gonna say which one because I don't want to spoil anything. If you've read it, let me know. Do you enjoy that kind of ending? I don't know why this always has to be a thing. It's definitely a thing that happens in fantasy novels specifically, and I can understand it from an outside perspective, I guess, but then again, I'm biased because I would just be so unhappy with that happening to me, myself, and I shouldn't be thinking of myself, but I am, so I gave it 4 stars. Solely because of that. I liked everything else about the story. It was just the ending that kind of like left a sour taste in my mouth. Felt open-ended too, so I don't know if there's gonna be more books in the series, and if there are, I don't see how they're gonna do it. Those are the 13 books that I read in the first quarter of the year. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the year. I am just in a very amazing reading mood. I haven't been in a physical reading mood in a long time. You guys know, it's been probably almost 2 years. So to have that kind of feeling again that I want to pick up a book and read it, and to be that absorbed in a story, because as much as I love audiobooks, it is personally not the same for me. I just can't get as absorbed. I'm always multitasking if I'm listening to an audiobook. I can't do it any other way. So to physically read is just an entirely different experience for me, and I'm so happy to be in that mood again. And yeah, I'm probably not gonna make an April TBR because, as you can tell, I didn't finish most of my March TBR, so all of those books are currently on my April TBR. Let me know though if you still want to see an April TBR. I will scrounge up some other books that I'm interested in reading. Otherwise though, that's gonna be it for this video today. Let me know what your favorite books were that you read for the first 3 months of the year, and yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. This year is definitely not going as planned for me, and I never thought that I would get back into a physical reading mood in the midst of the chaos of figuring out like moving situations, but here we are, and I am, so I'm not complaining. That's gonna be it for this video today, guys. I look forward to hearing from you down below. If you want to leave an emoji with your comment, or like if you can't think of something to say and you want to leave a comment, leave a, I don't know, just leave a thumbs up emoji. I don't know, just cause like, you're doing it, kid. That's how I feel whenever I use a thumbs up. Like, you really did it. So yeah, leave a thumbs up emoji if you would like to. Again, just let me know what books you've been reading and what your favorite was for the year. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you again to Book of the Month. If you want to check them out, it's down in my description bar below. And I will see you in my next one. Goodbye. Do you guys want to hear a quote? It's the only one that I wrote. That rhymed. I won't tell you what book it's from, but if you've read it, then you'll know. But it says, I was born knowing how to do 3 things. How to breathe, how to dream, and how to love you. That was just like, that literally, when I read that, it shattered my heart. It was so cute. I've definitely heard things like that before, you know, but that one it just did it so well. So well. If you want a good best friends to lovers, that's the one. Okay, I'm gonna go. Yeah, bye. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.